In these videos I'm going to be using the phrase sex provider rather than sex worker, with the definition of a sex provider being someone who gets money by allowing people to abuse her sexually. And those people are, of course, normally men. I mean absolutely no disrespect to the women involved in the sex industry when I use this term. I'm just trying to be accurate. The point being that you're only a worker if society recognizes you as such. And there are two things which make someone a worker in the eyes of any reasonable society. One, if they're doing something socially useful. Two, if what they're doing provides them with an element of dignity, or could do, in a society which was better organized. Obviously society can go wrong with its definitions, as when, for example, child rearing is not recognized as useful work. But my point is that no individual has got an automatic right to define what she does as work. To illustrate this by way of an analogy, consider a woman who decides that she could pay her bills by agreeing to act as a punch bag for violent men. So she starts telling people this is her new line of work. She might even get together with other women to form a punch bag collective, and that organisation would no doubt tell us that being allowed to work as a punch bag is a basic human right. They might go on to say that decriminalising that kind of work would make it easier to provide the things which the women themselves say they need, like first aid kits or a lift to the hospital afterwards. Perhaps they would even try telling us that the violence would turn into a good-natured fun fight if it wasn't for the stigma attached to the role of punch bag, or even that, speaking from their extensive experience, what most men want is really just a bit of rough and tumble followed by a cuddle. They'd probably accuse anyone who wanted to disagree with them of trying to suppress their voice, and ultimately, why not, they might be able to find a woman who'd be willing to tell us that the skillful way she rolls with the punch makes what she's doing not just a job, but an art form which she's proud of and finds very fulfilling. So yes, some women might choose to define being a punch bag as their work, but would any sane person be willing to go along with that particular bit of self-definition? And you might say, well, that's violence, not sex. But my reply would be that the only reason why being paid to accept violent abuse seems obviously wrong to us is because we have certain norms in this society. By contrast, in, say, 18th century America, it was perfectly acceptable to thrash a slave whenever you wanted, given that he was seen by society as just a piece of property. And the only reason that changed was because people expressed their opinions and organised to create a society where slavery was illegal. No doubt the anti-slavery movement was told that they were being moralistic or interfering in other people's lives. And of course they'd have had to listen to the inevitable Uncle Toms telling them they were exaggerating the problem, because most white folks treated them just fine. And don't get me wrong, I realise it is generally a good idea to be guided by the opinions of the people who are most affected by whatever it is you're talking about. But that's not a sacrosanct principle that can't be challenged, especially when many of the people who've been involved in prostitution are saying the exact opposite of what the paid sex positive would like us to believe. As usual, the PSPs are trying to ignore the broader context, namely an economic system which is driven by a need to turn our most authentic responses into just another commodity. But why should we, all of us feeling, thinking human beings, go along with that and accept the lie which says that allowing someone to abuse you sexually is just a job like any other?